I think which is very important is that women's rights are at risk when democracy is at risk. And at the moment, we know that anti-gender groups are really attacking these rights in Europe, everywhere but in Europe especially. So I think we have different things to do. First, to communicate on who they are, what they want to do to fight women's rights, but to fight LGBT rights at the same time, and to find the choice, the freedom of choice. This is very important. The second thing we have to do is to build a shared knowledge between academics, activists, civil society about who they are, and to tell the world who they are really, and to work with the politicians so that they can have this knowledge at the same time.
The main problem we have is that it's become increasingly difficult to have any kind of dialogue across ideas and views, and that makes it much harder for us to develop any kind of solutions. And democracy thrives on discussion and exchanging views. Where we don't agree with each other, it's really important that we're able to talk about them.
The transnational dimension of the anti-gender movement in Europe is extremely important due to the large degree of cross-pollination, exchange, coordination and learning that's taking place between the different actors operating to reduce and roll back gender equality and LGBTQI rights across Europe. But it should not also be overestimated, the transnational, and should not also be overemphasized, because we need to look at the local level dynamics and the way that locally actors, narratives and strategies are developed and implemented, because that is the place where local activism can actually respond to them.
Yeah, in an increasing number of countries, anti-gender movements placed trans rights on top of their agenda, and they're using our rights and our issues to fuel moral and sex panics, basically. And unless social justice warriors and activists, feminists and other equality and progressive movements also prioritize trans rights, we're all going to lose. Trans people are one of the most vulnerable and marginalized communities, and they need to have more access to funding, to other resources, and their issues also need to be on top of the list for all of the progressive and social justice movements.
Yes, I think the European Union has a role to play to combat anti-gender movements because the European Union is based on fundamental rights, so this right needs to be respected, and women's rights are human rights, and this is very important. And it has a role to play within a European Union, within member states, because in different countries within the European Union, gender diversity and women's rights are not respected at all. So it has a role to play in order to combat that within European member states, but it has also a role to play all over the world. There is one issue that we call the Brussels effect, what Anna Bradford, an academic and a journalist called Brussels effect, is that the European Union plays a role all over the world through regulation. And we have many aspects how to also influence beyond the European Union because of this regulation, or because of trade treaties, or because of financial aid or other kind of aid. So we have a role to play within and also all over the world in order to combat anti-gender movements and to fight for women's rights that are human rights.
What we have to do at the same time is to work to entrench these fundamental rights in the Charter of Fundamental Rights in Europe, and we have to act together to do that. And at the same time, you have to be coalitions so that we can really protect people who defend these rights in some country where they're in danger and defend the defenders. Solidarity, national solidarity, European solidarity is very important.
I think one of the really key things is to make sure that we have women's voices included in decision-making forums, in democratic forums where women are still, unfortunately, still very underrepresented. So that will increase democracy, and bringing civil society into these discussions is absolutely crucial if we're to make any kind of progress and find common ground on these very difficult, intractable issues.